Philippine, across these islands, tropical storms rise from warm seas. Earthquakes can shake the ground without warning, and volcanoes remind people that the land beneath their feet is still alive. But beyond this restless side of nature, the Philippines also reveals a beauty that feels almost unreal. Glowing blue seas, hidden lagoons, sandbars that appear and disappear with the tide. Waterfalls buried deep in the jungle, volcanic lands, and remote islands far beyond the usual tourist routes. Here, nature never stays still. Waves carve the coast, storms reshape the land, and every island tells a different story of beauty, danger, isolation, and wonder. Now, we leave the familiar behind and step into the unseen Philippines, a world of places that seem impossible, yet quietly exist within one of the most breathtaking island nations on Earth. Manjuyod Sandbar is often called the Maldives of the Philippines. But what makes it unforgettable is not luxury. It is the strange beauty of a white sandbar that can vanish completely with the rhythm of the tides. The water here is so clear that the shadow of your boat can be seen resting on the sandy bottom, while the sea shifts from light green to pale sky blue before deepening into a richer shade offshore. In just a few hours, this entire stretch of white sand, about 4.3 miles long, can be swallowed by the ocean without a trace, turning a place you could walk across into open water. Rising above the sea are simple wooden stilt houses balanced on thin posts, and when the tide comes in, they appear to float quietly over the water, like small shelters suspended between sky and sea. These huts have no air conditioning and no luxury amenities, yet they are often fully booked because visitors come here for something far rarer than comfort: the feeling of waking up in the middle of the ocean. During peak travel season, as the tide pulls back, local fishermen row toward the sandbar to sell fresh seafood and coconuts, creating a small floating market that exists for only a few hours each day before the sea takes the island back again. Mount Apo is the highest peak in the Philippines, rising 9,692 feet above sea level and standing as one of the most important natural landmarks in Mindanao. Although it is considered an inactive volcano, the mountain still shows clear geothermal activity, with sulfur vents and boiling mudflats found along the route to the summit. Mount Apo is also a crucial habitat for the Philippine eagle, recognized as one of the largest and rarest eagles in the world. Its name, Apo, means grandparent or ancestor in some indigenous languages, which reflects the deep respect and sacred meaning local communities have long given to the mountain. One of the most striking things about Mount Apo is how clearly the ecosystem changes with elevation, beginning with tropical rainforest near the base and gradually shifting into mossy cloud forest higher up. This natural layering gives the mountain a wide range of landscapes, making Mount Apo not only the highest point in the country, but also one of its most diverse and meaningful wild places. Bukidnon is one of the most surprising landscapes in the Philippines, because in the middle of a hot tropical country, this cool highland region can almost make you think of Northern Europe. Instead of white sand and ocean views, the land opens into rolling hills covered with smooth green grass, stretching out under the sun like a vast natural carpet. Bukidnon is also home to the Del Monte pineapple plantation, covering more than 49,000 acres and forming a massive green agricultural belt that reaches toward the horizon. One of the most famous routes here is the Bukidnon Road, where sharp winding curves cut across the plateau like a giant snake moving through the highlands. Early in the morning, traveling along this road can feel almost unreal, as the vehicle seems to move through thick white clouds while fog spills down into the valleys below. With its fertile soil and cooler climate, Bukidnon has become one of the country's major agricultural regions, producing large amounts of rice, corn, sugarcane, and important export fruits. Quitinde Green Hills is often compared to a smaller version of the Chocolate Hills, but once you look closer, the landscape is actually very different. Unlike the hills in Bohol, these hills do not turn brown when the dry season arrives. Even during long periods of drought, the grass keeps its steady turquoise green color, giving the area a fresh, open look that is unusual for limestone hill regions. What makes Quitinde even more interesting is that these hills are not made of ordinary soil or rock, but of ancient coral reefs that were lifted from the seabed millions of years ago. On the hilltops, you can still find rocks shaped like coral and scattered fossilized shells, clear signs of an ocean that once covered this place and then disappeared over time. Although the landscape is highly unique, Quitinde Green Hills only began developing as a tourist destination in recent years. Before that, it was simply a familiar open space where local children played, surrounded by a view that looked ordinary to them, but extraordinary to almost everyone else. Balabac is the southernmost archipelago of Palawan, often described as the last paradise of the Philippines. When the tide pulls back and leaves only a thin layer of water over its endless sandbars, the sea turns into a giant mirror, reflecting the sky so clearly that walking there can feel like moving through open air. The water in Balabac is known for its exceptional clarity, shifting through vivid shades from bright turquoise to deep cyan. One of its most distinctive features is a group of islands that appear only at low tide and disappear completely beneath the sea when the water rises, making every trip feel like a real treasure hunt. Across this landscape, wide coconut forests stretch over the islands, serving not only as part of the scenery, but also as a clean source of life for local communities. Getting to Balabac takes a long journey by both land and sea, but that difficulty is exactly what has helped protect the area from the heavy footprint of the modern world. Aliwagwag Falls is known as the Stairway to Heaven, and it is the tallest tiered waterfall system in the Philippines, with a total height of about 1,115 feet, roughly the height of a 100-story building. Unlike waterfalls that drop straight down in one powerful fall, Aliwagwag moves through more than 130 rock steps, stacked in a remarkably even formation that makes the whole waterfall look like a long, natural staircase. In the dry season, the water can look almost crystal clear as it flows gently across the rocks. But during the rainy season, the entire waterfall changes character, turning foamy white and roaring strongly over each tier. Near the lower levels, there are many small cascades and shallow pools, where local people and visitors can bathe with a fairly comfortable and safe experience. In 2012, Super Typhoon Pablo badly damaged the surrounding area, but Aliwagwag remained standing, and over time, the landscape around it turned green again. Tinipak River is often seen as one of the most pristine natural wonders in the Philippines, a place where the landscape still feels wild, quiet, and almost untouched by the modern world. Depending on the weather and the angle of the light, its water shifts between emerald green and soft sky blue, standing in beautiful contrast against the white limestone boulders that line the riverbanks. Along the river, massive rocks have been carved and smoothed by flowing water over millions of years, leaving behind sharp edges and strange curved shapes that feel almost too surreal to belong to Earth. Some formations look like fragments from another planet, scattered through the valley as if nature had built a secret stone gallery deep within the Philippine wilderness. Because of the way these rock formations are arranged, the river creates a series of natural mini-pools, each one feeling like a private bathing chamber tucked between stone and forest. Floating in the cold, clear water while steep cliffs rise around you and forest birds echo overhead, creates a rare feeling of freedom, silence, and complete escape from ordinary life. Barracuda Lake, located on the northern coast of Coron Island in the Philippines, offers one of the strangest and most unforgettable diving experiences on Earth. Not because of the fish it was named after, but because of what happens beneath its surface. The lake is famous for its extreme layers of temperature and salinity, where the water can suddenly shift from about 82 to 104 degrees Fahrenheit within just a few feet, creating a sensation that feels almost impossible the first time you pass through it. In this rare underwater world, warm water can float above cooler water, making your body feel as if it is moving through two different environments at once. Around the lake, ancient limestone cliffs rise from the shore and continue far below the surface, forming massive underwater walls that feel like stone skyscrapers hidden beneath the water. At the bottom, a strange gelatin-like layer of fine sand and soft silt moves with every kick, rising into cloudy plumes that make the lake feel even more mysterious. Although barracuda sightings are rare today, a lucky diver may still see a lone barracuda gliding silently through the lake's layered water, like a shadow passing through another world. Tabataha Reef's natural park is often described as a real-life water world, a place so remote that its ranger station stands as the only man-made structure in the middle of a vast open sea. Out here, marine rangers live in near total isolation for months at a time, surrounded by nothing but deep blue water as they protect one of the most delicate reef systems on Earth. Beneath the surface, enormous Gorgonian sea fans and brilliantly colored soft corals spread across the seafloor like living carpets, turning the ocean into a moving cathedral of color and life. This is one of the rare places on the planet where a single dive trip can bring you face to face with whale sharks, manta rays, tiger sharks, and hammerhead sharks. At the same time, the park holds one of the highest concentrations of white-tip reef sharks in the world. So many that divers often joke the strangest thing here would be seeing no sharks at all. Kalangaman Island makes a strong impression almost instantly, with a thin ribbon of soft white sand stretching hundreds of yards into the sea like a delicate brushstroke laid across deep blue water. What makes the sandbar so captivating is that it never seems to stay exactly the same, because every tide, every shift in the wind, and every movement of the sea quietly changes its shape. In that way, Kalangaman feels less like a fixed island and more like a living edge of coastline, always being redrawn by the ocean without a sound. When the tide drops to its lowest point, two sandbars appear at opposite ends of the island, and from far away, the whole place begins to look like a white bird spreading its wings over the open sea. Its name comes from the Cebuano word langgam, which means bird, and it is a fitting name for an island that almost looks as if it could lift itself from the water at any moment. But there is a quiet irony here because despite its bird-like name, Kalangaman rarely has resident birds, mostly because the island is small and does not have the large tree canopies they would need for shelter. Most of the vegetation is gathered near the center, where tall coconut trees offer a few rare patches of shade against the bright white sand and the glare of the surrounding sea. To protect this fragile landscape, local authorities limit the island to about 500 visitors a day and enforce strict environmental rules, including giving each visitor a separate trash bag, so every piece of waste is brought back to the mainland. Sugba Lagoon is known as a hidden paradise and one of the most iconic photo spots in the Philippine archipelago. To reach it, travelers have to pass through a green maze of mangroves covering nearly 9,900 acres, where the roots twist through the water like living water dragons. Around the lagoon, steep limestone mountains covered in primary vegetation rise like a natural fortress, making the whole place feel almost completely cut off from the outside world. In the middle of the wide, quiet water, a lone two-story wooden house appears as a rest stop, giving the lagoon a feeling that is both isolated and strangely romantic. Because the water is so clear, the reflections of rowing boats on sunny days can be seen all the way down on the bottom, making them look as if they are floating in midair. And for many adventure travelers, the most memorable moment comes on the wooden platform, where visitors jump from about 16 feet into the bright neon green water below. Oslab is often called the whale shark capital of the world, and it is one of the rare places where visitors can almost certainly encounter the largest fish in the ocean just minutes after leaving the shore. Here, the experience does not depend entirely on luck. After a short boat ride, travelers can find themselves in the water with whale sharks moving slowly beneath them in a completely real ocean setting. Imagine a creature up to 39 feet long and weighing tens of tons, nearly the size of a school bus, gliding quietly right below your feet. Each whale shark has its own pattern of white spots, and these markings work almost like human fingerprints, making every individual visually unique. Their skin is not only striking to look at, but can also be up to 4 inches thick, forming one of the toughest armors against predators in the marine world. Although visitors are not allowed to touch the whale sharks, the force of the water as one passes nearby can still shake your body, giving you a physical reminder of how powerful wild nature really is. Leyte Mangrove Rivers is a mangrove river system where people and the forest live closely together, forming one connected ecological structure along the water. In riverside fishing villages, especially around Palompon, many houses are built on wooden stilts and linked directly to living mangrove trunks. So the forest becomes both a foundation for daily life and a natural shield against storms. At the river mouths, fresh water flowing down from the Cordillera Mountains meets the salty tides of the Camotes Sea, creating areas where salinity can change sharply within a short distance. Because of that mix, freshwater fish and marine fish can sometimes appear in the same zone, making the river system unusually rich and active. The most recognizable scenery here comes from the dense web of aerial roots and arching prop roots of Rhizophora species, weaving together into green corridors just above the surface of the water. When the tide rises, the whole forest shifts into a half-flooded world, with the roots disappearing beneath calm water that reflects the sky. During Super Typhoon Haiyan in 2013, this mangrove river system absorbed and weakened powerful winds and large waves, becoming a vital natural defense line for the coastal communities of Leyte. Hinatuan Enchanted River has a daily ritual that makes almost everyone stop and watch. Exactly at noon, a bell rings, feeding time begins, and all visitors are asked to get out of the water. As soon as the bell sounds, hundreds of fish suddenly appear from the deep blue part of the riverbed, rushing toward the food as if they have come out of nowhere. Once the feeding is over, visitors are allowed back into the designated swimming area, where the unusually tame fish glide close to the body and make the river feel like a giant natural aquarium. The most striking feature here is the deep blue sinkhole at the center, standing in sharp contrast to the lighter turquoise water near the shore. The color is so vivid that many visitors think it has been digitally enhanced, although the deepest core is protected and reserved only for observation. Even so, the fish continue to swim naturally around the bathing zone, keeping the place alive without disturbing the protected area. What makes the river even stranger is that it has no visible surface source. Salt water rises from a still partly unexplored underground cave system, then flows directly out toward the Pacific Ocean. To this day, no diver has reached the true bottom of the blue hole because the reverse currents are extremely strong and the cave structure beneath it remains dangerously complex. Cambugahay Falls is known for its multi-tiered waterfall system and some of the most impressive natural blue water in the Philippine archipelago. Its clean limestone tiers are stacked like giant steps, creating a series of natural infinity pools right in the middle of the old forest. The water has an almost unreal turquoise color, as if millions of sapphires had dissolved all the way down to the bottom. This color is at its most beautiful around 10 in the morning, when direct sunlight hits the pools and makes the surface sparkle like a strip of diamonds. Around the falls, The thick jungle creates a cool microclimate, softening the harsh tropical heat that can rise above 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Hidden among the trees are rope swings, where visitors can fly through the air for a moment before dropping into the blue water, feeling like they have truly stepped into the wild heart of the jungle. Mount Canlaon is the highest point on Negros Island and one of the most active volcanoes in the Philippines. It belongs to the Pacific Ring of Fire, a zone known around the world for powerful geological activity. Near the summit and along its slopes, natural lakes sit inside extinct craters, with colors that can shift from turquoise to ash gray. At the same time, cracks in the ground often release steam and sulfur gases, showing that geothermal activity is still very much alive beneath the surface. The slopes of Mount Canlaon are covered with a largely pristine tropical rainforest ecosystem, home to many rare and endemic plants and animals. Around the mountain, the rich volcanic soil supports farming, while streams flowing down from its slopes provide important water resources for nearby communities.